Have you ever considered that the old saying, "No filial piety before a long illness," might one day come true for you? When we are young, we often think of our children as an extension of our lives, our strongest support in old age. But what if your health collapses and you need long-term care? Can that deep parent-child bond withstand the daily grind and the pressures of reality? Welcome to this episode of The Ups and Downs of Life. Today's protagonist, Zhong Jianguo, a retired teacher, has given us a heavy but incredibly real lesson through his experiences in the last few years of his life. He once thought that his son, whom he had meticulously raised, was his greatest pride. However, a sudden stroke not only shattered his body, but also made him see the chilling calculations behind filial piety. Lying on his sickbed, when he heard his son's impatient whisper outside the door, he suddenly realized that the greatest security in old age was not relying on children for support, but the path he had prepared for himself in advance. This story, like a surgical knife, precisely dissects the unspoken pain that many families are reluctant to touch. In an era of longevity, when we are old and sick, what can we truly rely on? My name is Zhong Jianguo, 72 this year. I was a middle school teacher my whole life. While I didn't have students everywhere, I was dedicated. My wife passed away early, and I raised my son, Zhong Lei, alone. Supported him through university, helped him with the down payment for his house, and watched him start his own family and career. The pride and satisfaction I felt were hard for others to understand. I always thought my greatest achievement in life was raising such a successful son. After retirement, I had hoped to enjoy my golden years with my grandchildren and my son's family. Who would have thought that at 68 a sudden stroke would completely pull my life onto another track? Right after I was discharged from the hospital, I was hemiplegic, slurred my words, and was completely unable to care for myself. My son Zhong Lei and my daughter-in-law Xiao Li did indeed busy themselves, taking care of me for about half a year without changing clothes, feeding, wiping, changing, massaging. Honestly, seeing their busy figures, I felt both touched and guilty, feeling like a burden to the family. At that time, I often comforted myself, thinking, see, my son is still filial. I didn't raise him for nothing. But as time went on, the situation gradually changed. My recovery period was very long, and my condition was sometimes good, sometimes bad, requiring hospital visits every now and then. The family's savings flowed out like water. My son's smiles became fewer and fewer, and my daughter-in-law's patience visibly wore thin. At first it was an occasional sigh, and later it was complaints in front of me. "Dad, how do you feel today?" The doctor said, "How much longer will the rehabilitation be?" "Lazy, next month the child's extracurricular activity fees are due, and Dad's medical expenses." The voices weren't loud, but every word pricked my heart like a needle. What truly chilled me to the core was a weekend afternoon. That day I was dozing off when I heard my son and daughter-in-law speaking in low voices in the living room. Perhaps they thought I was sound asleep, so their conversation was not too concealed. "It's been almost 2 years now. When will it end? Our energy and money are all drained. How many times have I asked for leave from the company?" It was my son's voice, full of exhaustion and anxiety. "Tell me about it. The key is there. No hope," the doctor said. It's just maintaining the current situation. Last week I asked about that nursing home. The conditions are average, but it costs $6,000 a month. My daughter-in-law's voice carried the anxiety of careful calculation. $6,000. Where would we get so much spare money? How about ask Dad? Doesn't he still have some pension and money saved up? Let's use it first. We can't really bear it all. Can his money be touched? Last time I mentioned it, Dad's face sighed. Besides, how long will his money last? What if later? I couldn't hear the rest of the conversation. Nor did I want to. At that moment, I lay in bed. My whole body cold. Even breathing felt difficult. It turned out that in their eyes, I had become an unbearable burden. And even my life, saving retirement money, they had begun to scheme about. All my life, I had been frugal, emptied my savings for his house. And now that I was sick, not only did I not receive attentive care, but I became a trouble and an object of their calculations. My wife used to say, Jianguo children and grandchildren have their own fortunes. But we must hold on to our retirement money. That's our last bit of dignity. I used to disagree, always thinking my son was reliable. But now I understand that my wife's words were absolute truth. That night, I couldn't sleep a wink. My mind replayed images of my son from childhood, intertwined with his current tired and impatient face. Yesha has his pressures, his small family to care for, and I shouldn't be too demanding. But can my dignity in old age only rely on his gradually fading filial piety? What if one day they truly can bear it anymore? Or simply don't want to send me to that average condition nursing home? Wouldn't my life end in misery? No, I cannot sit and wait for death. I still have my wits. And I can move one hand. I must plan for myself. My wife was right. Money in my own hands is the most solid backing. Even if it is to hire a caregiver, or live in a better nursing facility, it must be with my own money. Clearly and without being controlled by others. I started paying attention. While my son and daughter-in-law were at work, when I was alone at home, I tremblingly pulled out my phone book with my movable hand and found an old colleague I hadn't contacted for years. Old Lee before he retired. He was a bank manager, proficient in financial management and law. I dialed his number and, with a slurred but firm voice, told him my worries and thoughts. Old Lee listened, was silent for a long time, and then sighed. Jianguo, it's not easy for you to think this far. Don't rush this matter. And don't make a fuss. I'll help you figure it out. A few days later, Old Lee personally came to visit me, bringing a professional-looking lawyer friend. We closed the door and discussed my situation and wishes in detail. Finally, with their help, I made a series of arrangements. 1. Established a small family trust account. I transferred most of my savings into the trust, explicitly stating that this money could only be used for my medical, rehabilitation, and future potential institutional elder care expenses. Old Lee and a distant nephew, who is upright and has no financial dealings with Zhong Lei's family, would jointly supervise its execution, and my son would have no right to interfere. 2. Reserved a portion of liquid funds for daily expenses and emergencies. This portion of money would be controlled by me with a password or entrusted to the trust executor. 3. Hired a professional caregiver. Through a formal agency, I used money from the trust to pay for an experienced live-in caregiver, Xiaofeng, who would be responsible for my daily care and rehabilitation training. This ensured both the quality of care and reduced the actual burden on my son and daughter-in-law, although they might not appreciate it. 4. Drew up a written statement. This clarified my wishes for my old age, including under what circumstances I would enter what standard of nursing home, to be prepared for contingencies. After doing all this, I felt a huge weight lift from my mind. Although my body was still inconvenient, mentally I felt I had stood up again. After Xiaofang arrived, my life became much more regular. She was very professional and patient, helping me with massages and rehabilitation every day, chatting with me to relieve boredom, and managing my diet well. My mental state clearly improved. Old Li also visited me often, playing chess and reminiscing about the past. Sometimes community volunteers would also visit, bringing some care. My son Zhong Lei and daughter-in-law Xiao Li gradually visited less often. Seeing that there was a caregiver at home, they seemed to be relieved, only occasionally coming to sit for a bit, asking a few questions, with complex expressions in their eyes, probably having known about the money, but not wanting to speak explicitly. I didn't expose them, maintaining a superficial peace. I knew that the family bond might still exist, but it was already mixed with too much realistic helplessness. Expecting them to be as uncomplaining as before was unrealistic, and I no longer insisted. One time Zhong Lei brought up the money again, asking indirectly, "Dad, your trust? It's quite complicated. What if we need money for turnover in the future?" I interrupted him and said calmly, "Lazy that. It's my life-saving money for myself. I understand you have difficulties, but I can't cut off my own lifeline. You are young, and you have a long way to go. You must rely on yourselves. I'm just an old man. I'll be content if I can finish my last journey without burdening you and with peace." Zhong Lei fell silent, his face flushing, and ultimately said nothing more. Now, although I still cannot leave my wheelchair and medication, my heart is at peace. I know my old age is secure, and my dignity has a foundation. Xiaofang's careful care, Old Li's true friendship, and the community's warmth, these form the new support for my old age. Recalling the chilling feeling when I first heard my son and daughter-in-law's conversation, and then gradually making arrangements for myself, I deeply realized that the confidence in old age is not based on vague filial piety, but on the resources held in one's own hands and a clear mind. It's not that all children are unfilial, but in the face of prolonged illness and heavy realistic pressures, human nature often reveals its true self. Preparing in advance is not distrusting your children, but being responsible for everyone, protecting yourself, and also unburdening your children. After hearing Zhong Jianguo's story, though, you also feel deeply touched. No filial piety before a long illness may not be absolute, but the risk it reveals is worth everyone's vigilance. We work hard, are thrifty, and give our all for our children. But have we ever thought about how to ensure our quality of life and basic dignity when we are old, sick and need long-term care? Have you also worried about similar issues? What preparations do you think one should make for potential long-term illness while still healthy? Is it saving enough retirement money, buying good insurance, or understanding nursing homes in advance? Feel free to share your thoughts and experiences in the comment section. Your insights may bring important inspiration to others. If you found Zhong Jianguo's story moving, please don't hesitate to like and subscribe. Share this story to let more people see it, reminding our parents, friends, and our future selves. Elderly care ultimately needs to be planned by oneself. Planning ahead can provide an umbrella for yourself when storms come, preserving the peace and dignity you deserve. We look forward to seeing your comments, and we'll see you in the next episode.